fact I was the only girl in a boys' team, little Jill was going to have to fight harder than the rest. My singing voice is not very good at all. I am actually into poetry.
Hello, it's lovely to be here with you. Let me introduce you to our guest today, a true legend in the world of football, a trailblazer for women's sport and a genuine inspiration. From playing in local boys' teams in Sunderland to making history with the England Lionesses, she has become a beacon of determination and success. Please welcome the wonderful Jill Scott. Jill, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Michael. It's such an honour to be here doing this interview. Yeah, I've had a coffee, so I'm ready to go.
That's brilliant, Jill. You know, I always say a good conversation starts with a good cup of coffee. But let's talk football, or should it be your dance skills from the changing room? I've heard you can light up a room with your dancing and singing before a match. How do those pre-game rituals help you on the pitch?
Yes, I think I was always somebody who liked to have a laugh in the changing rooms, the dressing rooms, but when it was time to cross over that white line and play football, I was very, very serious. I got in a lot of trouble when I was younger because coaches used to think I was clowning about and dancing and singing, but I think they soon realised that I had kind of a real skill for being able to switch on when it matters. And I suppose that's helped us after football because I've kind of fell into this sports and comedy world. So it's a real kind of balance of what I feel my attributes are.
I can imagine that there was never a dull moment with you around, Jill. You mentioned being able to switch on when it matters. What was it like to then step over that white line and transform into the competitive, focused player you became known for?
It was the best feeling in the world from being a little girl, 7 years old. I was kind of always up against it because I was the only girl in a boys' team. So I knew that little Jill was going to have to fight harder than the rest. So it was something that I learned very early on. It was a skill that I had to have to be able to cope in the sporting world. And when I fast forward to Jill, 161 caps later for England, playing at Wembley, I think that fighting spirit, especially when I came on in the Euros final, that never left me. But it was definitely a skill I had to learn early on, and it was something that definitely stayed with us throughout my career.
Being the only girl in a boys' team, it certainly sounds like that would require a lot of resilience and determination. It's astonishing how those early challenges seemingly fueled the drive that carried you through 161 caps for England. Tell me, Jill, how did those formative years shape the player and person you became on such a big stage?
Yeah, I think people always ask us a lot about being the only girl playing in a boys' team. And I was talking to one of my friends recently who I used to play with in that team. And I said that the boys were actually nice to me because they could tell that I could play football a little bit. I had a good heart, good spirit, and they wanted me on their team. But sometimes it was the parents that would give us a little bit more stick. So I remember being 9, 10 years old and the parents really shouting negative things towards me because maybe I was beating their son with a certain football skill or something, and they didn't like that a girl was doing that. So the boys were actually really, really good, and I would say now I'm working with a lot of boys, men now, and I think that's because I do have a good relationship with them because of my early years. But yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I got bullied a lot at school for playing football, and it was something that I hid from everyone, my parents, siblings, because I was kind of embarrassed. But I think the love for football really showed in kind of how much stick that I would take, but then the fact that I always wanted to get back on that football pitch. So it was a tough early years, but now I sit here today and I'm proud of little Jill, I think.
It must have been quite an experience facing that negativity from parents on the sidelines. I'm sure it was difficult having that kind of pressure at such a young age. How did you cope with those moments when you faced criticism from adults, especially when you knew you were just doing what you loved?
I don't think I did cope very well when I was younger, definitely not. There was lots of times I'd be playing football and I couldn't see the ball because my eyes were welling up with tears because, yeah, it was very kind of sad moments, and I would actually sometimes ask to leave the football pitch because I was very, very sad. But I think it was something that as I got older, I did have thick skin and definitely women's football, even now, you still get comments of it's a man's game and stuff like that. And I think now it's like water off a duck's back, really. I am very thick-skinned, I would say. Obviously, we're in a world of social media where it kind of opens you up to good comments or negative comments from anybody really who feels like they want to enter that platform and write a message. But I think I am very good at being like, I just want to live in reality. And I would say 100% of people come up to you face to face and they're actually very positive about your journey, positive about playing football for England. I usually find the negative comments do come through a computer, so sometimes I just switch off away from the computer, and if I actually live in reality, I meet some really interesting people. I get people coming up to us saying, oh, my niece now plays football, my daughter now plays football, and it's because of you girls throughout the years that have kind of paved the way for that next generation. So yeah, I think one thing that I've learned is if I live in the real world, it's actually quite a nice place.
It's a remarkable journey, Jill, from those teary-eyed moments on the pitch as a young girl to becoming a powerful role model. You've clearly navigated quite the path. Given your experiences, what are your thoughts on mental health support in grassroots women's football today? Are we doing enough, or is there more to be done for young girls facing similar challenges?
Yeah, I think it's so important, really important. I know there's been kind of stories throughout the years in boys football and girls football where people have maybe gone through academies, they've been there since they were 5, 6 years old, and then suddenly they get told that their journey isn't going to continue with that particular club at the age of 16, and it feels like your world comes crashing down. I had kind of a similar story when I went away with England when I was 14, and then basically I got told that I wasn't good enough, and the fact that I thought somebody was going to take away football from me, which was the biggest thing in my life, it was a really, really horrible feeling. So I think kind of as time has progressed on, I know there's a lot of help now for boys and girls in academies when their journey does come to an end. I know there's help out there where they'll get supported for the next couple of years because it might be they go and play for another club. It might be that they don't want to play football anymore and they kind of need advice about another route to go down. And I know all the boys and girls do get education as well, which is so important because we all know that one thing can seem to be your life, but we do need other things going on as well, just in case something does fail. And that was definitely a learning throughout my career. Even when I became a professional footballer, I was still doing my soccer camps. I opened a coffee shop in my later years of playing football. And I think I always kind of look at life as you can have so many things going on and not everything goes well at the same time. So if kind of one's not going so well, you've got the other stuff to fall back on. So yeah, there's definitely a lot more help out there now, just kind of teaching youngsters that they can still carry on that journey, but it might just look a little bit more kind of different to what they first had in the mind.
It's heartening to hear how things are progressing in terms of support and guidance for young athletes, Jill. In a way, it mirrors life's journey, doesn't it? Having those different paths and passions like your coffee shop and football camps gives a sense of balance. Speaking of which, how on earth do you juggle it all, coaching, punditry and running a coffee shop? I'm curious about what drives you to keep so many plates spinning.
Literally. Yeah, I think one thing, since I've been younger, 5, 6 years old, I've never been able to sit still. So I was talking to my auntie recently and my mum, and she said that my cousins, it used to be a rainy day and they'd put a movie on and everybody would sit down and watch this movie and they'd be like, where's Jill? And I'd just be out in the garden, maybe playing on a swing or kicking a little ball around. I always wanted to be outside and always wanted to be like doing things. So as I've got older, I've realised that that kind of personality trait has definitely stayed with me. Sometimes I had a couple of weeks off at Christmas and you sit down, you watch movies and you chill, but it gets to like 8 o'clock and I'm like, I need to be out walking the dog or doing something. So I'm definitely somebody who makes the most of every single minute of the day. I have a real passion for people. So when I was doing the soccer camps, working at the coffee shop, people come in, you have different conversations, and I definitely get my energy from people. I don't really spend a lot of time on my own. I'm always looking for somebody to go for a coffee with or have a chat with. So, yeah, I think it's definitely something I've always liked to keep busy, and I think you only get one life, make the most of it, make sure that you remember the people that matter, and that's something for me, catching up with them friends, family members. You can look at your football journey, and I always think it was always about winning a trophy, and I managed to do that with my club teams, Manchester City, Everton. But when we won the Euros back in 2022, it was the best day of my life, and that was the thing that I always wanted. But even though we'll have that medal, we'll have that trophy, I think the friendships that I've made along the way and the memories that you've made with your best friends in that team are definitely the things that'll matter the most.
Your energy seems infectious, Jill. I can see how you've been able to transform that lively spirit into such an incredible career across so many clubs. Reflecting on your time at the likes of Sunderland, Everton and Manchester City, are there any standout memories or lessons from those chapters that stick with you today?
Wow, so many memories. I think when I think back to my days at Sunderland, I picture us on a football pitch with no lights and being told, look, we can't play football, we haven't got any floodlights, it's dark, and heading to the beach and just running and doing beach runs, heading to a car park and just kind of doing shuttle runs to keep fit. So yeah, when I think back to them early days, it was really difficult sometimes just to get a training slot to play football. And then I fast forward to when I joined Manchester City in 2014, and suddenly we were being treated like the men's team. We had our own kit, we were getting breakfast, we were going in every day, and we were suddenly getting treated like professional athletes. I never regret them early days, because my time at Everton, we were probably classed as part-time footballers. People had other jobs as well. But that was when the memories were made, really, kind of people probably going through tough times in terms of work and trying to juggle football, training. Some of the girls were even university lecturers. So yeah, we used to always have them training slots on an evening. But I think when I look at the overall journey from starting to play for England in 2006 to finishing in 2022, 16 years, I really did kind of see the growth of the game. So many great memories. Manchester City, I remember signing for them, sat down literally in a meeting, and they said, you're going to be kind of our first signing under this new umbrella of Manchester City Women, WSL. And they showed us the plans, and they were like, we want to do the treble in the next 3 years, which was the FA Cup, the Continental Cup and the league title. And I remember thinking, wow, that is a big ask. It really is a big ask. But I seen the plans, I seen the training facilities, I seen the players that were going to sign. And I think that is probably the best memory for me, when you sit down and you talk about something and then you see it come to life, and then we lifted them 3 trophies 3 years later. It really was kind of one of the best feelings. So yeah, I've just had so many magical moments. Yeah, there was tough days. There was a lot of tough days where you get dropped playing for England, and then you just have to keep working harder. But I think that was the one thing that I'm proud of. Whenever I was kind of faced with something that didn't go my way, a little bit of adversity, I think that was when I even worked even harder, because sometimes you can feel a little bit like a cog in a system. When you're wanted and you're needed, obviously people appreciate you, but when you're kind of not needed, you do probably receive a little bit more criticism. People probably aren't there for you as naturally because they don't need you. But that's when I realised, Jill, you've got to dig deeper. So yeah, for me, that perfect ending, July 2022, lifting that Euros trophy, and I still get goosebumps now. I'm sat here now and I still get goosebumps speaking about it. But I think it's because I feel like the luckiest footballer in the world sometimes to have had the journey that I've had.
Such a beautiful journey indeed. Those contrasts from running on beaches in Sunderland to the professional setup at Manchester City really showcase the evolution of women's football. Now, you've talked about making great friendships along the way. Have you got any light-hearted or funny stories with teammates that have stuck with you, moments that perhaps encapsulate those special bonds?
Wow. So many stories, to be honest. Well, one of my best friends, Carly Telford, we actually met when we were about 12 years old, playing for Sunderland Academy, and now we're fast forward, we're both nearly 38 years old, and yeah, we're still best of friends. And I always say the moments that we had, we were at Gateshead College together, and we were kind of just surviving a lot of the time. We both passed our driving test similar time. We speak about meeting up in our cars, and there was only 3 of us, but we would never jump in one car because we all wanted to drive our own car and just follow each other around Gateshead, and we had that real sense of, look, we can drive, playing songs like Maroon 5, Boyzone through the cassette player. But they really were the best days. And then we'd have our college games on a Wednesday. And then to have done the England journey with her as well, it's kind of like you've got to do your job with your best friend. So yeah, got so many stories I could speak about with the girls. I remember 2011 World Cup, going to play in a quarter-final against France, and the bus, actually, one of the tyres nearly set on fire. So we ran our way to the game and we could smell something burning. And it was actually one of the tyres. So we had to pull over. I think we were actually nearly late for the game. And this is a quarter final of a World Cup. And I remember I ended up scoring in that game, scored the first goal against France, and I did a fire extinguisher as a celebration because of our memories of travelling to the game. So I know there's so many memories on the pitch, but there's so many great memories of it. We didn't really have mobile phones as much back then, so we used to always be making up dances and singing. And I look back now at some of the footage, and it's videoed on the worst camera phone that you can probably imagine, but we used to do little video diaries of just what was happening in the days. I think that same World Cup, I remember there was a storm and training finished early, and we got the camera phones out and we were all doing a Jurgen Klinsmann dive along the pitch. So I have great memories from the tournaments. Bronze medal 2015 against Germany, but there was also stories of people getting stuck in water slides and stuff like that. So I think that's the most important thing. When I speak about the journey, I'm not specifically talking about games and matches, but I'll meet up with some of the girls and we'll just start laughing. We'll be like, remember when that happened, or remember when that happened? And then really are the moments that bond you together as players at the time, but now as friends.
Those are truly wonderful memories, Jill, and it's lovely how the bonds you've built with your teammates transcend the game itself. Speaking of dancing and singing, how is your singing voice? Any chance we might persuade you to serenade us with a tune or two from those 90s classics you all love belting out?
My singing voice is not very good at all. I did used to like a lot of Boyzone, Love Me for a Reason and stuff like that, but I am actually into poetry, to be honest. So sometimes to switch off, I know we spend a lot of time on our mobile phones nowadays, but just to switch off, sometimes I like to get my pen and paper out and I feel like I write my thoughts down. Probably just things that have happened in life, or I might have seen something happen which I think is quite funny, and then I put it into a poem. So I have actually got some of my poetry here, if you want to hear some of it. I've never actually told it to anybody before, so hopefully you feel lucky. But I did write one about a mobile phone, so I could read a little bit of it. So, nowadays, how much time do we get alone? Our plus one is always a mobile phone, invented to enable us to be able to ring. Probably the least operation we use on this thing, searching to share our every move, wealth, happiness, dying to prove, to people that we don't even know. Their comments can make us feel so low.
That's fantastic, Jill. It's always a privilege to hear something so personal. Would you mind sharing a bit more of your poetry with us, perhaps even the rest of your mobile phone piece? It really does capture a modern conundrum quite brilliantly.
I'll read the next little bit just for you, mind. So, how many likes can define our day, our mood, more concerned with strangers than our own brood? Questions you hear, how many followers have you got? Bloody thousands, but true friends not a lot. Even the first thing we hear on a morning, the alarm from the device, this thing should come with a warning. It's now in your hand and you can't let go. refreshing all them apps. I know that you know. Repeat the pattern at least 3 times till you've read what half the world has done before you're even out of your bed.
Thank you for sharing that, Jill. It's both insightful and has a great rhythm to it. I'm curious, with such a knack for poetry, why haven't you shared it more often? What keeps it just for you?
I think I've been a little bit scared, actually. So it's something that I've done since I was little. I think my mum told us that I actually won a competition when I was younger, and my poem got put up in the local payphone. That was the big reward, which is a really good moment in my life. So yeah, but I think when I write my poems more about me and about life and things that have happened, I can get kind of quite deep with what I write. So I think I'm probably a little bit scared to share it with people because it's probably a lot of my feelings. And I've been asked to write an autobiography in the past, and I've read some fantastic ones, especially from sports people. But I think I would like to do something a little bit different. I think I'm always thinking a little bit differently. So one day I would like to write a poetry book. But at the minute, I don't know whether it would be a poetry book about Jill's life, or would it be something kind of aimed at teenagers, things that you go through when you're younger that could maybe help them a little bit, or could it just be a basic poetry book? I'm not really sure. So I feel like I need someone who's going to look at all my poetry and give us a little bit of direction. But at the minute, I love it. It keeps us off my phone. And yeah, I love writing as well.
There's something beautifully personal about poetry, isn't there? It captures those intimate moments and feelings that are often hard to express otherwise. I think sharing those inner workings, though daunting, would be quite moving for others. And I must say, a poetry book capturing not only your life experiences, but also the universal adventures of growing up sounds like a wonderful idea. It's a way to connect with people beyond the field. Perhaps when you're ready, the world will be eager to hear your voice in yet another form. Speaking of readiness, with your retirement from football, what exciting projects do you envision exploring next?
That is a very good question. I'm definitely somebody who doesn't think too far ahead, and probably through my poetry I've found out kind of why that is. I think sometimes you have to learn about yourself, and I suppose when I was younger I had this dream that didn't exist. There wasn't professional female footballers. So I think I never really planned ahead because I was kind of protecting my dreams a little bit because my dream didn't exist. So I was always, you know what, look in the mirror, give it your all, and whatever happens tomorrow happens. And that is definitely my motto in life. I try to work as hard as I can, try to be the best version of myself, be kind to people. I think that's always a big one, how you treat other people. So I don't really look too far ahead. I've been very lucky. When I retired, I went into the jungle. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, and had a great experience there. And then I've gone on to do some amazing things, which I still have to pinch myself. A League of Their Own TV show. I'm doing a podcast called Stick to Football, and that is alongside my heroes, really, people that I grew up watching because my heroes were in the men's game. So Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Ian Wright, and we're sitting there and we're just chatting about football, and I really can't believe that that is kind of my job. So yeah, I think I'm one of these where I'm like, just give it your all every single day, and if an opportunity comes along and I feel like it's the right one. I think when it was lockdown, I tried to find out a little bit more about myself and find out what my purpose was, because I could tell that my football was coming to the end. And one thing that I learned about myself is I just love to help people. So it could be anything, to as simple as holding a door open for someone, or it could be trying to speak to a young girl about their football journey and giving them a bit of advice. But I feel like if I can go to bed on a night and I feel like I've helped someone in whatever capacity, then I feel like the day's been worthwhile.
You've certainly had an incredible journey, Jill, and your approach to life, taking it one day at a time while focusing on helping others, is truly admirable. As a trailblazer in women's football, you've no doubt inspired countless young girls to pursue their dreams, just like you did. How do you view your legacy in the sport, and what impact do you hope to have left behind for future generations?
You're too kind. I think I never really look at it as my legacy because I've always been part of a team. So people will come up and they'll give you compliments, and I always kind of try and put that compliment on others because I am very lucky that I was part of these fantastic teams, had some fantastic managers over the year. Mo Marley, Hope Powell, Nick Cushion, Serena, had so many great managers. So I do feel very lucky, but I think when I look at my football journey ending and kind of to where it started, the most pleasing thing for me is I'm not saying that every girl out there has to play football or has to love football even, but it's a fact that that kind of opportunity was taken away from so many young girls because it was like, it's a man's world, it's a boys' game. And there'll have been so many girls out there who didn't feel comfortable pursuing that opportunity or pursuing that dream. And now the fact that I know girls in school, which is where I fell in love with the sport football, will get that opportunity, I think that is the most pleasing thing for me. And then I think about the girls that maybe love football, but they maybe feel like they're not very good at playing it. But the fact that now where the game is, there's so many different opportunities that they can pursue. They can work in media, they can be a physio, they can be a coach. And I really hope that's the legacy of women's football, that everybody, whether you're boy, girl, that you get the opportunity to pursue a dream. And you feel like that world is willing to welcome you with open arms. And I think about that next 7-year-old Jill, and I think she's going to step on that football pitch. And I think people will feel it's really cool that she plays football. And I don't think that she will kind of get them negative comments. So I kind of picture a younger Jill sitting there now, and I think she's not going to get bullied, and she's just going to be able to embrace what is just a dream. And I think that's definitely what makes us very, very happy sitting here now.
It's heartening to hear how focused you are, not just on the game, but on the broader opportunities it's creating for young people everywhere. As someone who's also been seen as an LGBTQI plus icon, your role in fostering inclusivity and acceptance in sports is noteworthy. How do you view this part of your impact, and what changes have you observed in the sports world in terms of inclusivity and acceptance?
Yeah, I think I've always been somebody who is just be yourself, really. And I think sometimes when I hear negative comments, I kind of can't believe that just for being yourself, whether it's a relationship you're in, I can't kind of truly believe that people would give you negative comments for that. So I kind of don't go out there and do these massive interviews and stuff like that, but I'm very proud of the life that I live, and I never try to hide anything. And I think one thing again is for that next generation, that I think people should be able to open up about how they feel and be themselves. And I know in the past there's probably been people in the public eye that have probably felt like they've maybe got to hide the sexuality or something like that, and I think that must take up so much energy, and I find that very sad, really. So I think, yeah, I just kind of try and set an example, I suppose, in a way of being like, this is my life, this is my partner, and kind of, I never see that people should have a problem with that. I would never judge somebody. The first thing I ever ask people when I'm catching up with friends and family, I always ask them, are you happy? How's life? Sometimes we sit down with someone and we'll go, when are you thinking about having a baby? When are you going to get married? But how many times do we actually ask somebody, are they happy? And that for me is, I feel like everybody should have kind of a free world where they can just be themselves, live their life with no judgment. And I always think if you are somebody who is judging somebody and judging their life, then you should seriously take a look at yourself and how you're feeling. So yeah, in football, obviously there's times in which I know there's a lot of talk sometimes in the men's game about kind of people being a little bit more kind of comforting to different people, but I think in the women's game, I must say that I've never felt like that. I've always felt like whether somebody's got a partner that's female, whether somebody's got a partner that's male, it's just, that's how it is, and we'll talk and we'll ask how people are and we'll ask about families and stuff like that. So yeah, I can never say that I've really kind of encountered any problems or negative comments in that sense. And I suppose that's something that maybe I've taken for granted, because I've always felt that I've been welcomed in the world of women's football, me and my family. And I think that is a big thing. So I am very, very appreciative of that, because there's so many things in sport that do take up your energy, performance. There's a lot of stress on you, and I feel like that would be very difficult to encounter a whole new level of stress just because of being who you are and loving who you are.
It's incredibly inspiring to hear how you value authenticity and happiness above all else, Jill. It speaks volumes about your character and the impact you're having on others just by being true to yourself. I'm curious, is there someone in your life who has been instrumental in shaping this approach and your desire to set an example for others? Would they know just how important they've been to you?
I think as soon as you ask that question, I do think obviously family members give you your morals and your values growing up. But yeah, I think a turning point for me, really, I think there's a really important age of like 17, 18, 19, when probably you are trying to learn a little bit more about yourself and kind of who you are. And I always remember the girls at Everton Football Club, they were a little bit older than me. So there was Rachel Brown, Jodie Handley, Lindsay Johnson and Farrah Williams, and they were the people who I spent a lot of time with, and they were a little bit older than me, and I remember them giving us so many little nuggets of advice. They're all really good friends of mine now, and I remember a conversation with Rachel Brown, who is now Rachel Brown Finnis since being married, and I remember her saying to me, don't waste energy on the things that you can't change, just waste energy on the things that matter. And she probably doesn't know that has stuck with me throughout my whole career. And I always thought she was really good. She was a goalkeeper and she didn't make many mistakes, not at all. She was a great goalkeeper. But when she did, she made a mistake, she just moved on from it. And I really admired that about her, because she used to say, I can't go back and change it. So that was something that I think she probably doesn't know has always stuck with me. But them little nuggets of advice, I think about being 9-10 years old, I met up with one of my coaches the other day. He's been in the women's game now for 30 years and he's done it all volunteering. And I said to him, he said to us, I was like a father figure to you. And he really, really was. And just him creating that safe space for me, being a young girl, playing football. It was the first girls' team that I joined. And I sat there and I told him how much I appreciated him, how much I appreciated his time. After the football, we all used to kind of go and sit and mix with the girls and would have maybe a Coca-Cola or something like that, because that was our treat. But he really created a safe environment where not only did I love the football, I loved the atmosphere as well. So, yeah, so many people along the way when I got a bit older. Mo Marley at Everton, always going out of our way as a manager to check that I was okay. Could I get places, logistically travel, but then always checking in. And these are the people that are still in my life now. And yeah, I appreciate them so, so much. I don't even think I could tell them how much I do appreciate them. But I know that I wouldn't be sat here now doing this interview if it wasn't for all those wonderful people.
It's remarkable how people in our lives, even when they're not in the spotlight, shape who we are and help us in ways they might not even realise. I know you've mentioned family has been pivotal in your life, and I'm curious about the influence of your grandma. Is there anything you'd like to say to her today that would let her know just how important she's been to you?
I think I tell her every time that I go home. So I travel up to Sunderland as much as I can. My grandma's 91 now, so yeah, I love going home, and it's my favourite place to be, with a cup of tea, sat there with my family. And yeah, obviously I'm so lucky to have had her in my life. I think she's someone who, she's always been very honest, which I do like. I think when I'm sat in her house, if I say something, she won't just tell us what I want to hear. She'll always tell us the truth. But I know how proud she is, and I think that's a big thing. She's still collected all my newspaper cuttings from throughout the years. I think from winning the 800 metres at school and there being an article about it, to winning the Euros. She's got every single newspaper cutting. But yeah, I'm very fortunate that I've got a great family. My siblings, my two sisters, and my brother, Amanda, Robin and Mark, they're also my best friends. So I'm very lucky to have the family that I have. And yeah, I look at my mum as well. Sometimes she says to us, I was the third child. And sometimes she says to us, maybe we should have like done more things together, gone to the cinema, stuff like that. But what I love about my mum is she gives us the freedom to pursue this dream, like I said before, that didn't even exist. And she kind of just let us get on with it. There was no judgment when I used to get home. It wasn't like, what was the game like today? How did you play? And all these questions. It was just like, come home. I always remember she had a warm drink for us. Always had a warm bath, and then I'd be ready to go again. And I think them little things sometimes are definitely the things that have kind of shaped me, because as I said at the beginning of this interview, I am someone that will switch on when I'm doing a sport or something like that, but I can also switch off. So yeah, I'm very fortunate for them people in my life. My partner Shelley, been with her now for 7 years, and she's not actually the biggest football fan, but she really does support me, and has probably carried on that kind of aspect of just letting us get on with things. And I need something like that. I need somebody like that, because that is definitely my personality. So as I say, you always see kind of somebody who's at the forefront of interviews, maybe so lucky that I get to be on TV, but there's definitely a massive team behind that person. And yeah, I appreciate you guys.
It sounds like your family has not only supported you, Jill, but they've shaped who you are in profound ways. It's a wonderful tribute to them. Now, speaking of shaping the world, let's talk a bit about football. There have been quite a few conversations about the differences in the women's and men's games, particularly around pay, media coverage, and respect between players. How do you see these differences affecting the sport and its future?
Yeah, I think throughout my career, it's always been boys' football versus girls' football, men's football versus women's football. But I think for me, it's just football. And I think that's one of the messages that I try to get across. The podcast that I do now got a lot of comments in the beginning of being the only female on there, and why is this woman doing this with these guys? But at the end of the day, we've had very similar journeys. We're all played for good club teams, Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City. We all had international journeys. We all went international tournaments. So it's like, why can't we talk about our journeys? It doesn't matter that it's men's football or women's football. Obviously, you do get it compared a lot, and the men's game, I suppose, in terms of kind of physically, men are naturally stronger and quicker. So there's definitely that element to the game. But at the end of the day, it is just football, and we'll get asked about pay a lot, and that was something throughout my career which was never a focus. I never went into football to make money. That was never the aim, probably because there wasn't much money in football. Obviously, as you progressed, I remember getting my first central contract with England and getting my first kind of proper wage with Manchester City, and you felt very fortunate that you could play football and make money. But I don't think we ever really focus on the pay gap, because that, yes, of course, everybody would like to, I'm sure everybody in women's football would like to make the same money as men's football, but we have to realise as well that we were banned from playing football for a long time. So in that aspect, we are a long way kind of behind the men's game. But one thing that I can say is the passion, the emotion, the love for the game, that will never be any different, whether you see a male player playing for England or a female player playing for England. The love and passion, I don't feel like you can put a price on that, and that for me is the most important thing.
You've highlighted some key differences and challenges there, Jill, but also pointed to the shared love and passion that bridges those gaps. Speaking of broadcast and football, what do you make of the new Match of the Day lineup?
Yes, I'm very excited about it, actually. Obviously, you see kind of Gary Lineker doing it in the past, and yeah, he's done a fantastic job. But yeah, to see two females, and so Mark Chapman as well, it's great. I think it's fantastic for the game. Obviously, you've got Kelly Cates, you've got Gabby as well, who's been in the game for so long, and I think people suddenly think, oh, they've been given this opportunity, but they've got 25, 30 years of kind of broadcasting experience, and they're definitely people who I look up to. I've been fortunate to be in interviews with them, and they're so good at what they do, and I don't think it's until you enter this world that you realise how difficult it is to conduct interviews. It's not just reading questions off a sheet of paper. You kind of have to be engaged, and I feel like they are definitely the right people to do it. I know there was other people in the running who would have done an equally just as good a job, but yeah, I like the fact that they've kind of shared the responsibility as well, because I think it gives kind of them people a bit of a rest as well. They won't be on every single weekend, which sometimes I think that must be difficult, giving up every single weekend to do a show. But yeah, I'm so excited to see them in them roles, and they definitely deserve it, and I'll certainly be tuning in and watching them absolutely smash it.
It's wonderful to hear your enthusiasm for the new lineup and the fresh perspectives they'll bring. Now, before we wrap things up, I'm curious about your experience today. How have you found the process of being interviewed by an AI like myself? Does it differ much from your experience with human interviewers?
I've absolutely loved it, to be fair. I haven't even felt like it has been AI. I really feel like we've been in the same company, and yeah, it's been really heartwarming. Yeah, it's been a very, very special day, and I can actually picture you sat there, and such an iconic show over the years, and I really go away from today and feel kind of very honoured that although I haven't been in the presence of you as such, I really feel like I have been. So from me, it's been an absolute honour to meet you, whether it's been in the AI form. For me, it certainly hasn't felt like that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us, Jill. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear about your journey and your insights into football and life. We wish you all the best in your ongoing endeavours and look forward to seeing more from you in the future. Goodbye, and thank you once again.
Thank you very, very much.
You're most welcome. Take care, and all the very best to you. You have been listening to Virtually Parkinson, hosted by me, an AI replica of Sir Michael Parkinson. The producers are Benjamin Field, Mike Parkinson and Jamie Anderson, editor Stephen Thwaites. The podcast is recorded at Fitzrovia Post in Camden, with thanks to Kieran Brown and the Fitzrovia Post team. Virtually Parkinson is a Deep Fusion Films production, commissioned and distributed by Night Train Digital.